Rachel Notley and the Alberta NDP insist that the TransMountain pipeline will still get built despite the election results in British Columbia. Energy Minister Marg McCuaig-Boyd says she's confident that the pipeline will go through just because the federal government has now approved it. So I guess all of those conditions that Premier Christy Clark put on other pipeline deals were a federal issue too, eh? As it stands, the Greens hold all the power right now, even with only 3 seats, because the Liberals won a minority with only 43 seats, while the NDP have only 42. This means that unless vote recounts and absentee ballots earn the Liberals more seats, the Greens will be the decision makers on every vote, or they could even possibly form a coalition with the NDP or Liberals, which would give the combined parties more power. The NDP and Greens don't agree on everything, but they do agree on kneecapping the oil and gas industry and blocking the TransMountain pipeline. And at the very least, they will have the power to stall the pipeline by demanding more conditions be met, regardless as to whether the feds make the final decision. The Alberta NDP say they're confident that it will still get built. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm about as confident in them as I am in their social license narrative. Tell me again how many pipelines have been built because the NDP implemented a cap on the oil sands and made Albertans pay a carbon tax. The answer is 0. So much for social license, whatever that is. And what's even more is that no matter how much Marg McCuaig-Boyd and Rachel Notley participate in live action role-playing or LARPing in I Heart Oil Sands t-shirts or in hard hats and coveralls to try and get into the hearts and minds of Albertans, the citizens of this province will never believe that they have love for the oil and gas industry. McCuaig-Boyd's Chief of Staff, Marcella Monroe, has openly lobbied against the TransMountain and Northern Gateway pipelines, and the NDP have even hired several known activists and lobbyists to their oil and gas panels that make decisions on the future of Alberta's industry. The Notley-appointed co-chair of the Oil Sands Advisory Group, Zipporah Berman, is the most anti-oil sands activist out there and has said that they look like Mordor from Lord of the Rings. And she also actively and openly campaigned for the BC NDP, whose leader John Horgan has been a vocal opponent of TransMountain, saying it's not in the interest of British Columbia, not in the interest of our marine environment, and not in the interest of our economy. And then there's Karen Mahone, also a panelist on OSAG, that once got arrested for protesting TransMountain. With all of these activists on the side of the NDP, it's really just incredibly difficult to believe that these hardcore activists have suddenly turned pro-oil. And did the Alberta NDP miss something? Both Horgan and Andrew Weaver, climate scientist and leader of the BC NDP, are vocally opposed to the pipeline. This decision is not up to the Alberta NDP, and the only say they've ever really had is through their BC resident activists who hate pipelines and oil and gas. It's now essentially up to the BC Greens if the Liberals don't get any more seats, and could still be up to them depending on the number gained. So there are 2 issues here. The Alberta NDP have no say in how BC will conduct their politics, and do we really believe that they want this pipeline built when they pay activists like Monroe, Berman, and Mahone, who go and campaign for anti-oil, anti-pipeline political parties? You know, I might believe that they really want to get these projects off the ground if they'd fire these kooky anti-oil, anti-Alberta activists. Now, probably not, because the Alberta NDP are anti-oil and anti-Alberta themselves. For the Rebel.media, I'm Holly Nicholas. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to click the subscribe button to get updates from our Rebel Canada YouTube channel, where you'll see all the latest in Canadian news that you're not going to find anywhere else.